Okay, I think we are live. Yes, we are. We are live. So let's give 10 seconds for the internet to fill its buffers. Then we can get started. And I think this is going to be fun. Okay. All right. Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Uh, it's great to be back with another live stream with Arcee. And today we have really cool guests from Zerve AI, based in Ireland, right? Amazing place. So we're gonna hear all about that. My name is Julian. I'm the chief evangelist for RC. You may have seen me before. Let's do quick intros, and then we'll dive directly into the great discussion of how Zerve is using RC, and specifically Arcee Conductor, in their agentic AI and data science platform. So you know me. I'll hand it over to Davis, and let's just go around the table.
Sounds good. Thanks, Julian. So yeah, I'll do a quick intro of myself and RC as a company, talk a little bit about Conductor, and then pass it over to the Zerve team to tell us about what they're building. So RC is, or first, I'm the head of partnerships and growth at RC. But RC started as a SLM builder. So we were the pioneer of SLMs. We were founded in 2023. And since then, we've been working with enterprises to train custom SLMs and really make more efficient and secure AI solutions for them. So we're going to talk about Conductor today. Conductor is a product that we built earlier this year, which is an intelligent model router. So it uses one of our in-house trained classifier models to automatically route users' prompts to the most efficient model while keeping performance on par or better, and saving significant costs. So this has RC's SLMs built in. It also has some of the closed source LLMs from OpenAI, Anthropic, and others. But the reason why we built this, and we'll get into this a lot more during the conversation, especially cool to have a customer, and a user tell us why they use it as well. But we consistently heard two things from our customers who were using LLMs in their SaaS applications. And that was the cost to run LLMs became prohibitive when scaled from POC to production. So those costs scaled linearly. Essentially, that's like a profit margin for a SaaS company. And then also, customers didn't have time or expertise in a lot of cases to constantly evaluate and integrate new models every time a new state-of-the-art model is released. We know that happens on a quarterly or even more often. So a lot of our customers felt overwhelmed with the number of options and kind of unable to optimize for cost or performance. And they just kind of stuck with one LLM because it was, they had to keep their application up and running and working and all of that. So we built Conductor to solve some of those problems that we heard from our customers. But yeah, Philly and Jason would love just a quick intro, on Zerve and what you're building in general, and then we can get into kind of how you're using Conductor and some of the cool stories there.
Awesome. Well, thanks a million, Davis. And we're excited to be on the show. We're longtime fans of Julian, even pre-RC days. So we're excited to be part of the show. So I'm Philly. I'm the CEO of Zerve. We are building an agentic data science development environment, and we're super excited to talk about the partnership today and go into a little bit about using Zerve and using RC directly in the application. So getting into the weeds. So that'll be fun. I think a lot of what drove us to do this integration is, again, similar to what you were saying, Davis, about some of the optionality that's available and how quick things are moving. A lot of our customers wanted the ability to, depending, every prompt is different. So depending on what the workflow was, they wanted either a large language model approach for something much more complex, or maybe for things that are a little bit more vanilla. Small language models were providing massive efficiency gains potentially to customers that are exposing them to their more business end users for prompts in that vein. So that was a big driver for us to be able to have that optionality. And Arcee Conductor brings that to another level in terms of being able to, actually, almost do the AutoML for LLMs in terms of routing and how that works. So very, very interesting. From the Zerve perspective, just to give you a little bit of background on us. So our agentic data science development environment is built specifically for code first data teams, code first users, or data scientists scientists more specifically again, used by companies like HPE, Canal Plus in Julian's native lands, or even the likes of NASA and everything in between size-wise. And throughout that time, we've seen just the speed of advancements here in terms of what customers need to be able to deliver, just required partnering with other cutting edge technologies. And that's what drove us to partner with Arcee today. A little bit of background on the company. We're kind of post seed. So we've raised about $11 million today, customers all over the world. Lots of data scientists in-house, lots of really, really cool things being built on the platform. And excited to chat a bit more. I can hand over to Jason to introduce himself as well.
Thanks very much, Philly, and thanks as well, Davis and Julian, for having us. So a little bit, I guess, Philly's kind of given the introduction to Zerve, and we'll kind of get into the integration in a bit. I'm one of the co-founders as well, and the CTO, and my own background is in data science, we'll say. So, and Greg Michelson as well, our third co-founder, is also, we'll say, from a data science background, and a lot of the motivation for kind of like starting the company was to kind of like get, we'll say, data science to be as impactful as possible. And a lot of that would have been by kind of built on some of our core beliefs, that is like code first, like Philly said, that you'd have a good interactive environment, that you're able to scale onto the cloud. So you can both kind of like scale workloads and work with enterprise data, and then have easy ways to deploy. We'll say, so some of the things that are like particularly interesting, I think, about like Arcee and Conductor in general, is that kind of like aligns very well with some of the core things we're looking to do in terms of like making we'll say scalable like data applications, both in terms of the cost effectiveness, the latency, and then also the ability to work with like enterprise data.
Appreciate that. Yeah, and maybe it'd be a good starting point to just kind of talk about how LLMs or SLMs, basically just like generative AI, is incorporated into Zerve solutions, and just get kind of a baseline of like why are you using these in the first place, and that can kind of set the table for where you go from there.
Yes.
I can jump in first, Jay, on that. So from our side, I guess what people will be building with Zerve, a lot of the time will be LLM enabled. And so we'll build different dynamic workflows, or the customers will build different dynamic workflows that will incorporate, first of all, it was large language models. Where we've seen most of the usage on the small language model on our end is exposing that to that business end user, and exposing that into the end applications that our users build. So our super users, our data scientists, will go and build a platform within Zerve that they'll expose to their business end users, and we've built it in a way that they can further expose the agent to our agent that can be driven by Arcee or other providers, but can be driven by Arcee to answer those business user prompts from that perspective as well. Sorry, jump in, Jason.
Well, and some of it, I guess, large language models and small language models have like been a very transformative technology. They've like really opened the doors for like a lot of like applications. So like AI is kind of like a priority now for like a lot of people. We'll say. And the models themselves have just, we'll say, opened up like a whole new set of like applications and potential like users, whereas before you would have had to been a real like natural language expert to be able to work with like a lot of like text data in general, and now it's even gone beyond that to like multimodal, we'll say, different kind of we'll say different types of inputs. So it's just kind of like democratized a lot of the power of we'll say AI. And then it's even had like as far-reaching kind of like applications. It's not just the end usage, but also the software development kind of like process itself, where you can use these models to help to even generate the code to build the applications. So all of those things kind of combined together have like really made a step change kind of in we'll say data science over the past couple of years. We would have started Zerve pre-ChatGPT. So we would have kind of been solving a lot of the problems around like stability, reproducibility, I will say scaling to the cloud, and things like that. And then it's like these large language models have definitely like opened the doors for like lots of different kind of like opportunities and possibilities.
So we'll see a demo. Obviously, we'll see a demo of the platform and where Conductor fits. But I mean, 5 years ago, when we were doing data preparation, data transformation, we had to learn, fancy libraries like, pandas or, Spark or, fun tools, but not the easiest ones to work with. Definitely out of reach of business users, as Philly explained. I'm curious, Jason. I mean, how much of that is gone now? I mean, how much of that is dead or dying because language models are just easier to use,
I,
or is it a pipe dream?
I don't think it's necessarily a pipe dream. There's definitely some. You said there's definitely use for fancy libraries still, and they'll always be developed. I'm sure. The need to use like spacey models and kind of things like that out of the box is kind of like potentially less. They still have like uses for sure. But there is just a paradigm shift, kind of like for speed of development, you'll often try to use like a large language model to do like the summarization, the extraction, or even work with like there's a whole set of like industries potentially now that have kind of this like step change technology where they wouldn't have invested in a lot of, we'll say, data science before because they would have had like unstructured data, and now they have like just kind of like pretty much overnight have this ability to, we'll say, build pipelines that kind of give them like capabilities that they wouldn't have been able to do before. So it's like get real insights from like large amounts of data that they would have like collated over like over a decade potentially.
Right. And so when I first discovered Zerve, when I was in Kilkenny a few months ago for this AWS conference again, I took a look and I was like, yeah, this is really cool. I mean, like it looks great first of all, and we'll see it in a few minutes. And it really helps build those AI and data science workflows. And Philly, I remember you told me, well, we're using OpenAI, right? And I mean that's fine, right? Who am I to judge? Um, but what are some of the pain points that end up slowing down adoption or slowing down deployment because OpenAI is what it is and it can be expensive at scale and data prep at scale is a thing, etc., etc. So when did you notice that this was a problem? And then why did Conductor end up being something that was interesting to you?
So I think from the customer's perspective, I'll let Jason jump in on the technical side. I think a lot of it is from our side, it's optionality. And I spoke to this a little bit earlier in terms of just how quickly things are moving. So right now, we're trying to be a layer where people can bring in the latest frameworks, the latest models, and stay agile. And so I think Arcee more so represents a way of doing this that we really align with, as opposed to a specific development or a specific jump forward. So like I said, not all prompts are the same, and that needs to be treated differently. And Arcee Conductor really allows you to do that. But for our customers, what's really important, to be completely honest, is that agility. So whether someone is a native AWS, because you mentioned AWS, if they're a native AWS customer, they may not have that much OpenAI possibility, so they're relying more on the cloud side of the house. But we're seeing that level of flexibility just be core to what people need. I think AutoML and that generation of softwares that came before in the 2010s has created a lot of fear about lock-in and a lot of fear about black boxes. And I think that level of optionality would have been what made Arcee super interesting to us, as well as some of the core customer use cases. Jason can talk a bit to the efficiency items, or we can touch on it within the demo. But that would have been what made it very interesting initially, Julian.
Yeah. Before we jump into the demo, Davis, did you want to add anything there?
Yeah, I think like part of what you'll continue to see from why we're excited about this partnership and why it's such a good fit is like we're talking about doing a lot of the same things, and like we're SLM builders, but our claim is not that you should always just use SLMs and they're better than, and it replaces all these things. This all plays in like the modern world of generative AI as using the right model for the right prompt every time. And so like that's evidenced in Conductor itself, where it's not just a model garden for our SLMs. It does have kind of the state of the art LLMs from all of the providers. And like there's a time and a place for that. And really kind of the magic then lies in taking the constant decision making process out of like, okay, what is the right model for this? How do we build this into a software platform like Zerve so that the right model gets used? That's a hard thing to do ahead of time, of saying like, okay, somehow we classify these types of uses and always send it to this model. So like we wanted to build something in Conductor that is at inference time, that decision gets made without adding in any latency. And so you're kind of taking that decision certainly out of your users' hands, but even, we want to help our ISV customers who, don't want to have to make that decision in the development process either. So anyway, just wanted to point out, we're kind of thinking about this in the same way as where like most customers don't start with SLMs. They start with building a POC on OpenAI or on Claude and like get something that works, prove out your solution. And then now it's time to kind of optimize and think about like long-term scalability, affordability. So it definitely is consistent with what we've heard.
Yeah, and
Completely. And that level of optionality, I think, is even expressed by the hyperscalers. They themselves know that people want the optionality across the model providers. And so completely agree, and would see the same from our customer base for sure.
yeah, there's probably one thing that's like a hidden benefit nearly, along with the we'll say the reduced like cost, we'll say, when you actually get to production, because you're like
Yeah.
optimizing based just on, we'll say, the context of the like whatever you're processing is kind of like it's dynamically and like sophisticatedly like picked. So it fits in really nice for us. So a lot of what we do, and when we kind of get into the product, is like orchestration, and the model routing is like a kind of like an extra like layer kind of on top of it effectively. And because you can kind of have one, we'll say, kind of like you can build a workflow that just has like a conductor built into it, you actually have like less code to maintain, and it becomes like less brittle as well. So it's like, instead of having to build in the logic to route to a simpler task or we'll say a more complex task for a bigger model, you're able to kind of like just focus on building your workflow, and then there's like you don't have to manage all of these parallel branches.
Yeah, and it still looks like an OpenAI API at the end of the day, and under the hood, it just picks the right model, right? So definitely easier on platform builders.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do the demo, man. Let's just jump in.
Oh, yeah.
So Jason, time to share your screen.
Yeah, I'll bring it up here.
Show us the goods.
Share. Oh yeah, so this is Zerve. So this is kind of a workflow that I put together using the agent about an hour before the call. So it's both focused on Arcee and Julian. So it's
Oh man, no, this is embarrassing.
I'll get into it in a couple of minutes. But
what did you discover?
Yeah, so so to kind of give
okay, walk us through the because I mean I know a little bit what's going on in there, but okay, walk us through the platform first. I mean, I think this is really your chance to explain what the platform does in general, and then let's talk about the agent, let's talk about the workflows. But okay.
So what you have here is a Zerve Canvas, which is your development environment. It's fully kind of built for the coders. So each of these code blocks that you have are code based. You've got different types of blocks. So you have Python, or you've got Markdowns for documentation. You can connect to any of your data sources. You can, we'll say, integrate with like the likes of Snowpark for, we'll say, using like Spark and kind of like big data processing workloads. The Gen AI block is where we've integrated with Arcee for the conductor, which I'll get into. And then there's like Zerve specific functionalities, which is the endpoint invocation. So in Zerve, along with development, you've got the ability to do multiple deployments. So you can deploy APIs, you can schedule, and you can also use GPU for inference. Then you've got, I will say, the ability to create like logical flows through logic gates. The aggregator block is part of the fleet, which is our parallel and distributed computing functionality, which I'll touch on. And then you have input and output blocks where you can create applications or deploy your workflow as an end-to-end kind of like API.
And so the traditional way and I'm sure, you know, for some users, they still do that, would be to compose the workflows, you know, uh, box by box and enter the code, etc. Right? That still works. You can do everything by hand if you
Yes.
have such a
Yeah.
need, right? And use
So
all those nice components here. Okay.
yeah, so you can create a workflow. Each of these is a full kind of like a code editor, and you can do it like by hand. So it's like so
Okay.
the extension to that then is the agent,
All right.
which gives you the ability to not only like we'll say, so you can ask it like questions. It's like what's happening on this canvas, and it's able to, with the full context of the data, the code you've written, any of the packages, the, we'll say, dependencies, the artifacts. It's able to, we'll say, like answer questions. You're able to do it at a per block basis, and you're able to say things like, what can we add as a next step? So what it'll do then is it'll start to kind of like propose coding plans, and once you've agreed it, so propose a and then once you've agreed it, it's able to go and like execute the code, create the blocks, run the blocks, and kind of like work like a data scientist automatically, all while you can also work with it in real time. So it kind of like can summarize it, and then you can tell it to go ahead. So for the sake of we'll say the saving time on the demo, I kind of started this a bit earlier. So I
Sure.
said that I was demoing to you, and it was about integration with Arcee and Zerve, and I was like, what can we do? So we went and like I asked it to find like news sources. So the first thing it did was created a couple of lists. So curated, we'll say, live feeds, kind of like some links for articles that would be recent, and then also from like Arcee, kind of like the newsroom, the blog,
Okay.
the Twitter, and things
So
like
yeah,
that.
let's make it clear. All of that was generated, right?
So 100% of this
Yes.
workflow was generated by the agent.
So not just so the boxes, the content of the boxes, the orchestration of the boxes,
Everything.
all of it is generated. Yeah.
The
Yeah,
fact that they're running on Lambda or Fargate or whatever, because it's
yeah,
an AWS, all of
Yeah,
that
the
decided
underlying
by
compute.
the
Yeah,
agent.
sure.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So each of these can have different configurations for compute. So at a per block basis, you can kind of like, depending on your cloud provider, you can run on Lambdas. If you need a bit more like CPU or GPU, you're able to, I will say, either spin them up on Fargates, or we'll say in this case, use like GPUs as well.
So we
Uh,
can see in the agent, for example, I mean, if you have a like maybe your initial question, you know, like what could I build? Okay, that's a straightforward question. You know, that's a simple question. So you could say, well, this one doesn't require a huge model.
yeah,
You know, maybe a small model can do the job. But then as you go deeper into orchestrating and refining and, you know, code generation, etc., maybe you need a little more, you need more capable models. Maybe you need code generation.
yeah.
Maybe at the end of the day, you need an LLM for something really tricky, right? And you don't want the user to have to decide, okay, am I sending this prompt to that model or that model, or now do I have to manually switch to OpenAI or Anthropic, you know? And that's where Conductor is useful, right? You can focus on building your workflow, and whatever Conductor wants to use is fine, right?
Oh, 100%. So it's both useful in terms of like the code generation side, you're with the agent. So there's like lots of parts where it's like some of it is code generation, some of it is like figuring out the tool calls,
Yeah,
some of it is like reading things, and it's like being able to appropriately pick the model is actually like hugely beneficial. So it's like so I think there's typically speaking like 75% like potential savings for, we'll say, just like LLM cost by being able to dynamically switch is kind of the is kind
that's
of.
pretty, yeah, that's pretty big, right?
And speed also matters when you're doing like code generation. So it's like like people
Yes.
do want to work fast, so like lowering the latency is also like another big benefit.
Yeah, that's one we heard from a lot of customers, Davis, right? The fact that I mean, agentic workflows, whatever flavor you practice, they do involve a lot of inference steps. So it's not like, oh, I'm gonna call, OpenAI or Anthropic, and yeah, maybe it takes 30 seconds and then I'm done with it. It's like, no, you probably have to call those models, 5 times, 10 times, maybe more. And then you have to run the workflow thousands of times, which I know you guys are doing, scaling to insane numbers. So the ability to run those steps on a smaller, faster, cheaper model really pays off. It's not just cost, it's you will scale better, right?
Oh, 100% you'll scale better. And it's all also, it's like without like we'll say sacrificing like quality of output. So it's not just like we'll say faster or like we'll say less expensive for like there isn't a like you're not
Yeah,
training on quality as well, which is a
yeah.
key.
Davis,
Yeah, I
I
was going
think
to
you
say,
wanted to say something. Yeah.
yeah, it's super interesting point for like, everybody's looking at agentic now, and like the latency of each request in this is one thing, but like the speed of your platform is the product of all of those steps, the latency of all of those steps combined, right? So it's like you can, in similar ways where you would optimize different levels of the stack elsewhere, it's like you can now get fine grained into each one of these steps. I see, like, I think it's counting seconds up at the top, 4 seconds and 18 seconds. And
Yep.
like even getting fine grained down to, it's like, okay, this step seems to be where there's delays relative to like what our users expect for this entire workflow to execute, and like allowing you to even get into that level of granularity of that's kind of the challenge with agentic. It's not one piece and how fast that gets done. It's like sequentially, how quickly can we do all of these?
Oh, exactly. And then it's just to kind of like touch on, I guess, we'll say inside the Gen AI block as well as another place that you can, we'll say, use a conductor. So inside of a workflow here, we've gathered our different sources where we'll say extracting all of the texts. We're using the fleet, which is the parallel kind of like processing capabilities. So you pass like an iterable to the spread function, and then everything downstream is concurrent. And here we're using the Gen AI block, which is like natural language with like Jinja 2 templating, so you can inject variables. We have Arcee Conductor as the model that we're using, and what it'll do is it'll produce a variable called summary for downstream in this case. And each of these then we'll say is the result of all of each of the documents being processed.
And that's where again, can you show the list of models that are available, just
Yeah.
out of
So we have
curiosity? Okay.
so there's like in this particular account, it's like mainly the Bedrock ones, but you can also have all
Okay.
of the OpenAI ones and everything like that as well. So
Okay,
it's
so if you know, right? And I mean, if you know one model performs really amazingly well on the particular thing, then go and use that, I mean, there's room for everybody, but 30 concurrent runs, it could be 300, could be 3,000,
yep.
and 3,000 LLM parallel queries. Well, you'll run into costs for sure. You'll run into latency. You could run into throttling. I
Yep.
heard a lot. No offense to our Bedrock friends or LLM friends in general, but you hear that, hey, we get throttle, hey, we get things slow down, or we get even rejected because we have too much stuff running. So plus just the time of it, just this thing will run as fast as the slowest block, right? So if you have to parallelize a lot, well, then it needs to be really fast, because that might very well be the bottleneck here, right? I mean, even graphically, it looks like a bottleneck, this
Oh,
step. So
exactly. Yeah. So that's a key point. And actually, on some of these workflows, when you kind of scale it up to like hundreds and thousands, we've seen with Conductor that it's picked like Blitz, Virtuoso, Claude, we'll say GPT 4.1. It's doing it quite. It is like quite dynamic in terms of based on the context, which is like very interesting to see. And there's a cost difference of like 2 orders of magnitude typically.
yeah.
So it's like,
Oh yeah, that's what we see. And pretty soon you'll be able to use AFM, the RC
oh
foundation model,
yeah,
where
yeah.
it's still in preview for not too much longer. You won't get the date here, but it's not too much longer, and it'll be on Hugging Face non-commercial use, and it'll be on Together AI and Conductor for a paper token, etc. So this one, might just blow your socks off, because it's
Oh yeah,
it
I
is
played.
smaller, better, faster, cheaper, more amazing.
I played around with the preview a little bit. It's like,
Oh,
yeah, no,
cool.
I'm excited to get my hands on it. It's like
All right. Yeah.
then
So we
Yeah.
saw the agent. We saw the Gen AI blog. Any other item you wanted to highlight, Jason?
they're kind of the key points for like today's one. I guess it's like, in terms of it, then what it did was it just summarized all of the different results, used we'll say Arcee Conductor then to kind of do a like sentiment analysis, extract all of the key topics, and we'll say all of those got extracted, and then it started to, we'll say, create like charts and visualizations for the different topics, sentiment analysis, and everything like that. So long story short, yeah, currently speaking, everything seems very positive in terms of the news, and for Arcee and yourself, Julian.
Well, we
Well,
can
yeah. Well,
send you
it's
the charts, Julian, for further analysis. Should you require them? The sentiment analysis in particular should
no,
be
no,
interesting.
no, no. Well, I'd be afraid of the results, and I know what people think. I know what I think. I don't need AI for that. Well, that's amazing. Thank you very much, Jason, for the demo. And personally, I mean, I'm blown away by the look and feel of the platform. And I think it looks amazingly good. So kudos to your UI team and your
Oh,
UX team, or maybe you're the UI and UX team. I don't know,
oh
but
no,
whoever.
we've made some upgrades. Early days we were, but it's like, yeah,
Okay,
no.
yeah, yeah.
Luckily we have like, yeah, we've got a very
No,
very
but
very
it
talented
looks
team.
very, very polished. And Davis, I don't know what you think, but I think the full workflow generation from the agent is just stunning. I mean, it's we see a lot of platforms. This is really great, right?
100%. Yeah. It's really impressive, and I think it's what we've heard customers. We've explored in the agentic space as well, and like this was the breakthrough. I think is taking it from drag and drop to true generative workflow building, and making it like really agentic. I was gonna ask too. So like Conductor, just like anyone can come on and use Conductor and use it like ChatGPT, but we really did build it for ISVs, for incorporating it into platforms. So like a lot of the way that it's built and what we intended was not necessarily for the everyday user of an LLM, though it works for that, but it's more for simplifying the process for SaaS companies, for other AI companies. And so I was interested to hear kind of from your perspective, and even kind of generally from the perspective of a software builder that's thinking about incorporating it. Like, what are some of in the evaluation process of, like, of course, everyone wants to save 75%. That's easy. But like, you need this, your non-negotiables are, this needs to work. This needs to either be as good or better from a performance standpoint. Like, how did you go about evaluating whether you were even comfortable like switching over to Conductor rather than just OpenAI?
Oh yeah, well, the switch for the testing was super easy, in terms of it's like, it's an OpenAI compatible API, so it's like change the key, change the base URL, and then you're like, you're able to like switch in and out. So that part made it like, there was like no fundamental like code changes in that sense for us to be able to like, kind of like start using it, which was good. Then we have some like initial like evals, I guess, for the we're still working on like making them like better, in terms of like automating it and making sure like our model evaluations are correct. But yeah, just like we kind of track like some of it's related to cost, obviously cost, performance, but a lot of it at the minute for us is just sheer like quality, in terms of like, is it getting the job done to like an acceptable standard, and does it do it like fast enough? Is kind of the two things at the minute. So it's like, those are our two kind of like key metrics that we look at.
And they were complete from a coding perspective, as you can imagine. Like we're all about the developer experience for our data scientists, and we just couldn't bargain on quality. So it would have been a hard stop, Davis, weren't we seeing the quality coming out the other side. Of course, some of the things I alluded to earlier about the business use cases and the more vanilla prompting for the end user, I like to call them, where we get to a business user, that means, if you're exposing it out to a lot of business end users, the cost makes a huge difference. But it would have been a non-starter were we not getting the quality from a code production point of view.
Got it. Yeah, that's super interesting. And also curious too, like, because what we often are talking with customers about with Conductor is like, it depends on how you price your product. Since we're selling to other platforms and now you have like margins get complicated with all of this, and especially like we mentioned at the top, but if you're paying 90% more for an LLM that's giving you the same results as this, that's just 90% of, that all margin from you as a startup that's working to get this off the ground. Like, but yeah, so like, I guess, lost my train of thought a little bit here, but
well, I can jump in terms of how it might flow through from you to eventually our end users in terms of the finance side.
Yeah.
So we've it's our approach in general to be very agnostic. So folks can bring their own key. So from our SaaS perspective, individual end users can come in and use what's there, but they can bring their own key. And from a business perspective, an enterprise perspective, it would always be a bring your own key situation. So that flow through is something that makes it very easy for us. It doesn't particularly change the dynamic that much. We're exposing people to Arcee from our perspective on the SaaS environment, and where they get serious and want to self-host and bring their own keys, then it's a natural thing to go ahead and set that up at that point. So we operate. Someone else might look at it differently in terms of how they do. We operate it from a flow-through side. Our business it just works slightly differently in terms of how our business model works in that sense.
Got it. Yeah, and that's similar to us too. So for anytime third-party models are being called, Conductor does just pass that cost through from the SaaS environment, or similarly, bring in their own key for, like you said, for enterprises. That's typically going to be their pattern.
So what's next for you guys? All right. You're a startup, so you're like us. You don't really have a roadmap, but pretending you had one, what's on it?
I think it's all things agentic development. So from our perspective, there's a huge white space in this area. People have made massive strides. The software development tools like Cursor and Windsurf and all of these amazing tools. From our side, it's applying that to what is very different to data science. Data science development and software engineering are different. They require different information. It's iterative. When you start doing data science development, you don't know what's coming at the end. When you're doing software engineering, you should have a good idea what you're trying to build at the end. So with data science development, that's our North Star, and the agentic technology around that would be exposing the right data as context, exposing all the artifacts that you create. Just like a human would iterate through their data to get to the end result, the agent should be getting that access too. So from our side, it's to be providing a better experience for data scientists and building like an end-to-end agentic data science development environment. So it's all things agents, I guess. Might be a common answer today, Julian, but from our perspective, we really do mean it.
Yeah, and I think it's like a fast moving space. I think like how people there's like no going back in terms of the way development was done. It's like it will be with like powered with like large language models, small language models, and like agents. So I think the user interface will end up like changing and shifting as people kind of like find like new paradigms. So everybody uses the chat at the minute. That could potentially change. There's some very interesting things with small language models that you can potentially do, because you have like a lower cost for like every kind of like piece of like action that you take. So you could explore multiple trajectories before kind of like deciding on which one you use, like a larger model to go and like write the final piece of code. And then there's like things like maybe with like AFM 4.5b, you can kind of start to do things like very interested to do kind of the equivalent of the tab kind of experience in Cursor for data science and things like that. So predicting intent and stuff like that would be another like interesting thing from a data science perspective.
And how close are we from, and I'm going to be provocative here for once, how close are we from, non-technical people, getting the answers, building complex workflows with a simple prompt? I'll give you an anecdote. I mean, and we've all been there. We've all worked at companies where, you're doing something important, and then, somebody comes to your desk, taps you on the shoulder and says, C-level, whoever needs a report on blah, 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 and it's not available in the dashboard, and you have to take one of your crew members, and they have to write the SQL query from hell, just to please that C-level person. And you know what I mean, right? I mean, when can we go to those people and say, listen, here's the keyboard, here's the agent, type your query, you're going to get your data presented the way you want it?
Well, Greg, our other co-founder, made a joke about this. I think he was saying it was like 4 to 5 like weeks away or something like
Yeah,
that.
it's kind of was a joke. Yeah.
But it's I think it's realistic that for at least some use cases like that, you could get there within I'll make a prediction, less than 6 months would be our
wow.
our
Okay.
goal, for maybe not every use case, you still might need people to set some guardrails and things like that.
Yeah.
So that it's but it's like that you could set the guardrails for an agent to go and like code, we'll say, to kind of like build an initial analysis.
Yeah. You need the C-level agent.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I think the paradigm shifts a little bit. There's certain parts where, for sure, I don't think people will be writing as much code, but being able to understand what's happening and what's been built and all that, we don't want to get back to a place where you just have a black box and an answer, because that's not what people are going to make proper decisions on anyway. So I think it's a slightly different paradigm shift. There may well be that interface that people can type into. They might not know all that's happening in the background to make that sentence give them what they want, but that there would be a lot of plumbing and platform built in there to make sure that is a sensible answer coming back.
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of SQL developers and DBAs across the world are just are waiting and I guess praying for vibe dashboarding to be a thing, because then they can go back to their real jobs, optimizing storage procedures and creating the right indexes, and instead of spending 2 hours writing a query that makes no sense whatsoever, but hey, the boss wanted it. So vibe dashboarding for the win. That's a feature for you guys.
Yeah. And
we'll take it for consideration, Julian. Yeah.
In the roadmap that doesn't exist.
Yeah. So the short term thing there is like making data scientists like more productive through it's like still the best people to use the AI are still the data scientists, but definitely for sure you can potentially free up a load of their time as well, in terms of like if the agents can do the ad hoc kind of like reporting.
Yeah, focus on the right things. And I was taking pot shots at pandas and SciPy and Spark, but I mean, that's where you need you need your teams to focus. You need them to focus on the hard problems. It's like training models or cleaning data, or really, even writing code. 80% might be commodity boilerplate stuff, and let's go and generate it. And then you have 10 to 20%, which is where you really need the right people to focus and solve them. And I think what you're building is another great example of that. Just the simple things can be easily automated away, and for the hard things, you can divide and conquer, and you can get maybe 80% of the work done already. And then you go and sweat that complex processing box, which is where the value is created. But everything else, you very easily generate it. And I think that's a great way to do it.
It's also what the models will be best at. It's what exists time and time again is what they're going to be the best at. So I think that's it's self-fulfilling in that sense, for sure.
All right, I think we're coming up on time. So Philly, if our viewers want to know more about Zerve,
because I guess
they can go to the website. But okay,
for sure. Well, they
what
go to
else
the website.
should they be looking at?
but we've got a free community plan that is free to use, and also Arcee is directly integrated in there too. So it's a free way to use us and to start trying to use Arcee within the Zerve platform as well. So by all means, we're looking forward to seeing what they build.
Yeah,
Yes,
and
yes.
I'll put all the links in the video descriptions on YouTube and LinkedIn, etc. So, and if you missed the beginning of this amazing discussion, you know, everything will be available again on all those channels. So you can watch it again and share it with your C-level.
Sounds good. Yep. And thanks very much, Julian Davis, as well. And yeah, we'd be happy to come back in 6 months when vibe dashboarding is a thing. Yeah.
Yes. And then there goes your Series B, you know, vibe dashboarding, and that's a 50 million Series B guaranteed. Okay, go build it. Now, seriously, build great things like you're building today. I'm just making fun here. Davis, thank you very much for being with us again today. Jason and Philly, all the way from Ireland, beautiful Ireland. Cannot wait to be back. I love Ireland. Everybody should go. Right? What's the weather like right now? Is it?
It's rare, but it's blue skies.
Not raining. Yeah.
It's not raining currently. So
okay, but yeah. So within 30 minutes it will. I'm sure.
Within 30, what's that really big bright thing? I haven't seen it in years.
Oh yeah, well well. All right. Well, enjoy it while it lasts, and yeah, we'll definitely be in touch. And you're welcome back anytime to show us the cool stuff you built. Thank you again. Thanks to our amazing production manager, Dante, for running the show. That was smooth and nice and easy. And thanks for everybody for watching this. We'll see you soon with more live streams and more content. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Yeah.